Hello. It's recording and then the YouTube live. Hello. Sorry, I have the YouTube live set up. Sharon, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh no, it's okay.
I'm trying to fix I somehow like messed up my screen. Yeah. That's good. Okay. It's like not letting me go to full screen because the little thing view
Oh,
options is blocking.
that's annoying.
I'm just gonna sign in again. Okay.
Hey, Bill.
Hello.
Oh, is Sharon gone?
Yeah, she said she's in the waiting room. If you can see that.
Okay, you both should be co-host now.
Thanks.
Thank you. I quite messed up my freaking view here. There we go. I fixed it. It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, I can let people in. There's actually only 14 in the waiting room. 15 now. I'll let them in.
No.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will get started in a bit. We're just waiting for some people to enter the Zoom room. In the meantime, you can find in the chat just some links relating to our program, our application link, for instance, our program overview, a list of like our current academic opportunities, and then a few other resources that we're going to talk about throughout the presentation. But yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we are going to get started here in a few minutes. If you all could type into the chat your major and then current like academic year, the program that you're in, or if like, for instance, you're like a master's student or already graduated, that'd be great. So again, just your current major background, and then academic year, program, or current status, like academically. Just so we can get an idea of who is in this room with us, and how we can like better tailor our presentation and our content to kind of meet everyone's background. Awesome. So Monica is a science major at BMCC, currently in their senior year. Yvette is a global public health and anthropology junior. That's awesome. We have forensics majors, a CIS data analytics major, a bio major, nursing major, another CIS cybersecurity. Ooh, a postdoc, awesome. Civil engineering, clinical lab science, environmental engineering, computer science, molecular and cellular biology. So we really are having like, I see a very wide range. Mostly it seems fairly STEM focused, which is great. But if you're also not in like a typical or traditional STEM major, if that is not your like your background, just know that we do have opportunities for you if you are either like a business major, a finance, marketing, like accounting, anything in that realm as well on the business side of things. We also have opportunities. Yeah, I see. Awesome. Nicholas is a finance sophomore. That's great. A lot of people will see like LifeSci and then think, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I am not a science major. I'm not a STEM major. But that is not the case. And we'll talk more about why. Cool. So thank you all for like chiming in the chat, just letting us know what your background is. We'll like keep this feedback in mind as we go through. So we are the LifeSci NYC Internship program. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. This is just an info session where we'll give an overview of our program, how our application process works, and what you can kind of expect once you get started applying to our program. I'll give you a little bit of background, but we'll introduce our team first. So with us today is Sharon Alpert Kaplan, our Senior Program Director. Also with us is Bill Hammersley, our Program Coordinator. I'm here. My name is Evan. I'm also a Program Coordinator. And then you might also come into contact with our Associate Director of Career Development, Sally Fang. All of us can be reached at that email below if you have any questions. We will all receive an email from you if you reply to internships@upperweststrategies.com. So yeah, you'd likely be in contact with either Bill or myself, but occasionally you might hear from Sharon or Sally, depending on like what your question is or what kind of information you're hoping for. A little bit about like our program background. We are part of New York City Economic Development Corporation's 10-year, $1 billion initiative to grow the life sciences industry. New York is really trying to compete with other life science sectors like in Boston and the Bay Area, because I think the city realized that we were falling like fairly behind in terms of how many life science companies we had, how many like new biotech startups were kind of arising in New York. So this initiative is designed to really grow that sector and really allow life science companies to like call New York City their home. Our program specifically is an internship program of that, so like a workforce development aspect of this program. And we offer paid opportunities for college and graduate students, either in the science track or the business management track. We offer full-time 10-week summer internships. Those are our main placements. However, we do offer quite a few academic year internships, as well as full and part-time entry-level jobs. We are currently in our 7th year. We have placed over 750 interns at nearly 200 companies and organizations in New York City. So yeah, we're constantly expanding, constantly adding new positions. And if you, for instance, look at our job portal now and nothing is of interest to you right now, if you check back within like a few weeks or a few months, we constantly are adding new positions and new companies. A little bit about our eligibility. Likely all of you are eligible just based on the quick check-in that we had. However, you must be legally able to work in the US, either as a US citizen, a permanent resident, a DACA participant, or someone with TPS status, or a work visa allowing work without sponsorship. Typically, that's an F1 visa. And then if you do have an F1 visa, you'd apply either for CPT or OPT, depending on your situation. Otherwise, you must be enrolled in college or university in New York City, or be a New York City resident enrolled anywhere. And we also accept recent grads from spring 2022 or later. So if, yeah, for instance, you just recently graduated from a New York City university, or if you were a New York City resident and just graduated, you're still eligible to apply. That final eligibility piece is not a very hard I guess, screening. So if you have below a 3.0 GPA, you are still welcome to apply. We just ask that you kind of qualify and explain a little bit of the circumstances that might have led to you having below a 3.0 GPA. So if there was something that prevented you from achieving that, or if there were some life circumstances or something unforeseen, you can definitely let us know. And we'll still accept your application and you'll still be able to apply to our companies. So that is not a hard requirement. If you do have below, you can just tell us. Before I go any further, if you all have any questions at any time, please type those in the chat. We are keeping track of those questions and we'll come to them at the end. So we'll likely have answered most of your questions by the end of this presentation, but we'll go through those questions at the end. And if you want to ask questions in our Q&A portion too, just know there will be time for that. But one more thing before we move on, I've been talking a lot about life sciences, and I've mentioned that term quite a few times already. We really like to just get a sense of what you all know about life sciences in an industry context. So maybe just in a sentence or a few words, if you could all type into the chat, what does the life sciences in an industry context mean to you? Yeah, just a few words, your thoughts. We can get a sense of what people know about it, and then we'll let you know what our current definition or our very broad definition of the life sciences is. I know when I first heard life sciences, I immediately thought bio. If y'all have taken living environment and our New York City residents, that was definitely all about bio and I guess interactions between natural things. But Juan says health, medical, definitely. Monica says sciences that improve people's livelihood, community. I like it. Environmental studies. Pretty much it's very, very broad. So I think all of you are correct so far. Study of environment and life, biomedical engineering, anything to do with medical drugs, biochemistry. Yeah. All these things definitely apply. How we have defined it, and we are continuing to kind of expand our definition of life sciences, is really anything in the pharmaceutical industry or biopharma. Anything to do with medical devices or medical tech, clinical work, or healthcare in a physical hospital or clinic space. We consider digital health or health tech also considered part of the life sciences, anything that is really connecting a patient to their doctor or their healthcare provider virtually. Supportive industries that we'll talk a little bit more about are also within the realm of life sciences, but we also consider climate tech, food tech, and a number of other sectors. So all of you were technically correct. We're still expanding this as we find new companies that might fit the umbrella of life sciences. So you can kind of see a quick snapshot of the companies that we have recently or are currently working with. Many of these or a few of these, I would say you might be familiar with. We've all heard of Columbia and maybe the Irving Medical Center. You might have heard of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation or the New York Stem Cell Foundation. or maybe some of like the larger research institutions or larger like healthcare institutions. But if most of these names and most of these logos are unfamiliar to you, that's because these are very, very small companies. So typically we work with quite a few like early stage biotech startups that are really just kind of getting off the ground. They need interns and they need like subsidized interns because they can't really afford um, to like pay for students or pay for employees like right off the bat, and they're like struggling. So our program is really helping these smaller stage startups to like really settle in New York City and have a base. So again, if you're not familiar with many of these, it's because they're very small companies. Um, that is kind of a benefit of our program. Working with smaller companies means you usually have a lot more range of responsibilities, a lot more flexibility, um, and you're likely to get experience in a number of forms in a number of departments and work with like a small team. So you can see where our companies kind of fall in terms of sectors. A majority of them, or a large portion of them, are pharma, biotech, and diagnostic companies. We work with quite a few nonprofits and education and outreach companies, as well as like digital health and health tech startups. We do work with a handful of research foundations. A few of them I've mentioned. These are much larger institutions that typically have their own internship programs that we're kind of helping them to find candidates for. We also work with some of the larger hospitals and medical centers in New York, like Columbia and Cornell. We work with a number of incubators and accelerators in the city. If you're not familiar with an incubator or an accelerator, it's basically like a parent company that's has lab space, has office space that smaller companies use in order to just kind of like have a space for their experiments or to really like get started. So a lot of the companies that we work with are actually coming out of these incubators. We also work with some material science companies that are making, for instance, like synthetic fabrics or synthetic and like sustainable materials. And then a handful of our companies are in the like marketing and consulting realm. So yeah, this is just like a quick overview of where like a lot of our companies fall. Again, we are constantly adding new companies as we find them. There's dozens throughout the city that many people don't know about or that aren't really well connected. So we're constantly adding new ones and new positions as well. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Sharon, and she'll talk a little bit more about the two tracks that I mentioned already, our science and management track.
Thank you, Evan, and welcome everybody. And as Evan mentioned, we encourage you to put any of your questions in the chat. We're going to answer them all at the end. We also will be sharing this slide deck with you following the presentation, so you don't need to take copious notes or copy down any links because you will be able to access those later. As Evan mentioned, there are two general types of positions that we are offering. You do not need to select one. Once you do an application for our program, you have access to every position we post. And for many of you, there may actually be both business positions and science positions that are a good fit for you. On the science side, a lot of them incorporate biology, chemistry, biochemistry, biomedical engineering, lots of tech fields like computer science, data science, and statistics. And then getting into regulatory as well as many other life sciences and STEM fields. On the business side, there are business roles, marketing roles, finance roles, things as specialized as accounting and IT, and some edge into public policy and public affairs or specific business areas like supply chain and operations. Here, and again, this is a lot to see, but just a sampling of some of the internship roles that we have posted in the past or may have posted now. This is not an exhaustive list, and not every single one of these positions will be offered this year, but we will also have a lot of other positions that you don't even see here. But this is a great way to kind of see the breadth of different types of opportunities that we offer. There are really so many different types of opportunities that we're open to all majors, and there are so many students that could find interesting opportunities in the fast-growing life science industry here in New York City just by applying to our program. A few words about program timing. So our application is now open. It actually has been open this year since September 1st. We do have a deadline coming up in just 10 days, December 31st. So if you are at all interested in being able to apply for our summer internships, of which we offer a great many, we urge you to get your application in by our early bird deadline of December 31st. And while it's not mandatory, you can apply to our program and get eligibility for summer until March 31st. It is much to your advantage to get your application in by that December 31st early bird deadline. We are going to give you priority consideration, and also the earlier you apply, the more positions are going to be possibilities for you. We post our positions on a rolling basis, and once they are filled, they get pulled down. So if you don't apply till after that position is pulled down, that is one more position that is not an option for you. And we do allow you to apply to as many of our positions as you like until you actually get placed in one. In terms of non-summer roles, that would be academic year internships as well as some full and part-time jobs. Our application is open year-round. One note here, I know many of you who may have already graduated or will be graduating this year are thinking, well, I don't want an internship, or maybe I don't qualify for an internship. I just want to get a full-time job, a regular paid job. Just keep in mind that all of our positions are paid, and also that many of our internships, approaching 50%, in fact, do end up turning into some kind of an offer to continue working at that employer. So sometimes that could be a continuation of an internship, but oftentimes it's actually a full-time or part-time job, and sometimes it's a permanent position. And we actually do have a number of prior interns who are actually now our current hosts. They're the ones hiring the next generation of interns. So even if you think that you'd rather have a full-time job, I encourage you to be open to considering internships and to complete our full summer application, not just choosing our abbreviated application that doesn't give you access to summer. Choose our full summer application that gives you access to every position we post, summer and non-summer alike. So as I mentioned, we are filling positions on a rolling basis. Decisions about who to hire is ultimately up to the host organization, though we conduct the first screen. So they are doing that on their own timeline on a rolling basis. For those who are selected for an internship through our program, they are invited and strongly urged to participate in our 2-day boot camp, which will take place this year on May 22nd to 23rd, which is sort of right after most of you will have finished second semester classes and exams. That boot camp is a really amazing experience where you get to meet your fellow interns who are working at dozens of other companies. You get to connect with a lot of leaders in the field and hear from them in talks. You get to participate in professional development and team building opportunities. It's just really an amazing, jam-packed 2 days where the next generation of leaders in the life science industry here in New York City is coming together, and it's not to be missed. The internships themselves, the start and end dates will vary, especially for those that are academic year positions. Those are really up to the host and the intern to figure out in terms of what will work, time commitment, start and end dates, that kind of thing. Most summer internships are about 10 weeks long and generally full-time. We have suggested dates of May 27th through August 2nd, but they may vary from that somewhat according to host needs or intern availability. Here is an overview of our placement process. You are going to apply online. And again, we are going to share this presentation with everyone via email following today's program, so you don't need to copy down these links. Once you have submitted your online application, you get access to our list of current openings. Again, we are adding to that on a rolling basis, so we urge you to check it frequently because there may be new positions that are of interest to you. We also do email all of our applicants weekly to sort of give you a heads up when we've added a new position. When you see any positions that are of interest to you, for each of those, you will submit a cover letter. We are actually not even going to look at your online application until you submit a cover letter to apply for a specific role. So we are not saying, oh, here's an applicant, I'm going to consider them for this role. No, you have to read through the positions, see which are of interest to you and which you're qualified for, and then submit a cover letter. And at that point, we're going to read your full application, including that cover letter where you are making a case for why you're a great fit for that particular position. And then if we find you to be qualified and a strong fit for that position, we are going to send your full application on to that company for their consideration. Each company does make their own decisions about who they would like to interview, and also makes their own decisions about who they're going to hire. So they keep us in the loop. And we are happy to offer you support throughout that process. Just a couple notes here. As I mentioned a minute ago, we have a non-summer application and a summer application. I do urge you all to do that summer application, which will give you access to everything we offer, both non-summer and summer. However, if you do choose to complete only our abbreviated non-summer application, you will only get access to see our academic year and full-time job listings. You can actually see a list of those at this link, where we also include application instructions. Those who are interested in summer positions will have to complete all the questions on our full application. So here is a description of what is involved on that full summer application. We will be asking for your resume. And that is something that if you ever make any updates, you'll be able to email us an update, and we can always update the application that we have on file for you. There is a personal statement that we ask you to complete, and really we're looking to learn about your interest in our program and what kind of work you're interested in doing and what your career interests are, the type of work you might like to do. We're going to ask you for your most recent academic transcript. If you are, say, a first semester freshman and you don't have a transcript yet, please just upload that class list that your school provides for you, and then you can replace it with a transcript as soon as you have one available. We are going to ask you for contact information for 1 to 2 recommendations. You don't need to send the letters of reference themselves, just the contact information. And then we'll be reaching out to those contacts to ask them to fill out a short form about you. And finally, there is an optional video where you can provide us with a 2 to 3 minute video, which talks about your interests or maybe addresses something that can't really be conveyed as well in writing or on your application. So you can talk about some research project you did. You can talk about a story from your life or your family's background that has inspired you to want to go into this field. It's really up to you. It's a way for you to put a face to a name, make your application stand out, and just really say something that is not coming through on your resume. And we always do like to point out that we unfortunately cannot guarantee placement for every applicant. The program is competitive, and we do urge you to both apply early and to apply elsewhere instead. Our fondest wish for you is that you get a great career-focused internship this summer or this year. And if it can be through us, we'd love that. But if it's through somewhere else, we're happy for you then too. So please follow up on all leads that you have. We are going to evaluate your application in a few different ways. Of course, for specific roles, we are going to look specifically to see if you have the requirements that they're looking for in that particular job description and that you have expressed genuine interest in what that company does. But beyond that, in general, we're going to be looking to see that you have expressed some interest in working in the life sciences field. That doesn't mean that you have to be focused on cell biology or something right at the heart of life sciences. It just means that we want to know why you would be interested in taking the skills and interests that you have and applying them within the life sciences. So whether that is finance or software engineering or biomedical engineering or biology, just tell us what your interests are and why you're interested in being in this field in New York City. We're going to look to see your level of personal and professional maturity and integrity. That is something that is going to come through from the references we read about you, from the care and thought that you have put into your resume, and your personal statement and other pieces of your application, and is also going to be your professional maturity is also going to be reflected somewhat from the amount of experience you have. But that is not to say that we are only placing those who have a great deal of prior experience. We also have positions that are particularly geared towards those just getting their start and looking to get their first career-focused experience. And finally, we're going to look at the technical skills that you possess and have expressed a desire to learn in your application in your particular field. And so next. Here are a few snapshots of what it looks like to be placed through our program. There's a picture from our boot camp last summer. So you can get an idea what that looks like. Our interns present at intern talks, they attend site visits, they go on incubator tours, they hear career panels from leaders in the field, and even those who have been prior interns in our program who have gone on to work in the field and have really gotten a great start from their internships and are really now moving up in the industry. And finally, there are a number of events that are purely just about networking, connecting with the other interns you may have met at boot camp and socializing with them and leaders who are hosting our interns. And now Bill is going to talk to you a bit about how to put together a really strong application and other materials for our program. Keep sending in those questions.
Thanks so much, Sharon and Evan. So great to meet with you all here today. Thank you for being here, especially right before the semester end. So we're going to talk a little bit about what makes a strong application, and these resources are going to be geared towards a summer or a full application. So the first element of a summer application that's important is a strong personal statement. In this personal statement, you want to be specific and concrete about your previous experience, as well as your goals that you want to learn in this program. These can be immediate goals. You can say specifically that you're looking for experience with an additional programming language, for example. Or these can be more long-term and career-oriented, where you're talking about pivoting into a role that will define your post-college careers as well. But whichever way you want to go, you want to make sure that you are being very specific. I think oftentimes we see students talk generally about their dreams and aspirations instead of the actual concrete examples of the work that they want to be doing instead. I've seen some questions in the chat about this, so I want to emphasize this part. We have an optional video that you can include. I think the reason that we include this, well, I know the reason that we include this is that some people feel a little bit more comfortable speaking about themselves and their experiences instead of writing it in a professional document. I can say that we've absolutely had hosts come back to us in the past and say, I was really impressed with this student's video statement. Can I learn more about their candidacy? So if you feel comfortable, if you feel like this would be you and you feel more comfortable speaking about your experience instead of writing about it, you can include this optional video. 3 minutes is also a long time to talk about yourself, for sure. Moving on to other aspects of the application, you want to be clear, even if you're coming from another field, that you're emphasizing your interest in life sciences. For those of you in different fields like business or accounting or computer science and tech, take some time to discuss why you want to participate in those fields within the life sciences instead of going somewhere else in the finance industry or into a tech startup. You also want to make a clear connection about how your previous experiences connect to your goals in the industry. Once you've completed and compiled these application materials, meet with a friend or a career advisor on your campus. I'll talk about office hours that we offer later in the presentation, but you want to make sure that you're meeting with at least a second set of eyes to ensure that there are no mistakes in your spelling, grammar, and formatting. Not every hiring manager will completely throw away your resume or cover letter because of these things, but many will just move your documents into the no consideration pile. So ensure that your resume is up to date, that the formatting is consistent and correct, and ensure that you have removed errors in spelling or grammar from that resume. If you're applying with a summer application, another aspect that's required is a reference. We require 1 to 2 references for a summer application. These references can be anybody who can speak to your professional experience or your character. So it can be somebody you've worked with previously. It can be a previous employer or a previous colleague. You can also use somebody to speak to your sort of personal character, but that would need to be somebody like a coach or a teacher or a professor, an extracurricular advisor, somebody that you've known for a long time. Instead of, excuse me, you want to make sure that you are relying on these people instead of family and friends. We do see some recommendations come in that are not necessarily calibrated towards a professional recommendation, and we have to reach out and say that we need a different reference provider. As you ask these references to provide a reference, make sure that you are giving them advance notice of the deadline. That deadline for final references is the final deadline for our application, which is March 31st. Especially at this time in the year, if you're asking a professor, they will be very busy, just as you all are. So make sure that you're giving your references advance notice. I think 1 to 2 weeks is a good general rule to use. And sit down with some information to ask them about, or to tell them, excuse me, this is what I'm looking for you to provide with regards to my reference. We've worked together in this chemistry class, and I'd love for you to talk about the quality of my lab reports, or, we engaged in this independent study for this semester, and I'd love for you to talk about my ability to do research. When you support your reference this way and ask them and describe for them specifically what you're looking for, it can make the quality of their reference much stronger. We're going to shift to talk about resumes. I would love to see just some thoughts on resumes in the chat. You can give me a 1 to 5 rating of how you feel about resumes, how you feel about writing them. 1, less confident, 5, most confident. And I'd also love to see how many of you have a resume, I think, ready to go at this point. I see a lot of confidence in the chat. That's great. Because some of those numbers are higher, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the additional ways you can strengthen resumes and some common mistakes that we see. So, characteristics of a strong resume. A strong resume shows what somebody did, how they did it, and what it was worth, or what the outcomes of that work are. I think most often when students write resumes, and even when career professionals write them, sometimes they index really often on what they did, and they don't necessarily talk about how they did it, like what methodologies were used, and they don't necessarily talk about the worth of that work or the outcomes with metrics and data to support that evidence. So really make sure that as you're going through your bullet points, you're taking some time to be really clear about what measurable statistics are involved with that work, what the impact of that work was. Especially if you're coming from a field where technical expertise is really important, you want to be really clear about what those technical skills are. Any lab procedures you've engaged in the past, any proficiencies you have in specific techniques, any software experience you have. If you're a comp sci student, it's really helpful to have your languages outlined pretty clearly in your resume in a skills section. If you're fluent in other languages, spoken languages, sometimes our positions require bilingualism. So you want to make sure that you're stating very clearly what your fluency level is there too. My general advice is that unless something is asking for a language, you don't necessarily need to include it. But if you are multilingual, it can still be evidence that you've operated in a different way. There's studies that show that multilingualism impacts the way that we understand and analyze things. So these can be value adds to your resumes. Oftentimes, students don't necessarily know what to include on resumes if they are applying for an internship with education experience instead of career experience. So you want to take some time to highlight relevant research experience from classes that you've participated in. You can list those class projects and research experiences in the same way that you would list a job. So title it, break down the what, the how, and the why, and make sure that that's very clear for you as well. Talked about class projects. Any leadership roles or volunteer activities that you engage in outside of class can also be a way to round out your candidacy. A lot of times you'll see culture fit questions in interviews, or cultural or soft skill expectations in job descriptions. And when you include additional leadership activities or extracurricular activities, that helps us when we're screening resumes to know if you fit the bill there. If you have awards and honors, it can be helpful to include those. Same thing with your GPA. If it's an impressive GPA, go ahead and include it. You're not required to include your GPA on resumes. The next question is going to be, what's an impressive GPA? It depends on your field. And I would encourage you to speak to professors and career advisors in your specific field to get a pulse check there. Let's talk cover letters. So we were very confident in the chat in regards to resumes. How do we feel about cover letters? Same questions, 1 to 5. Have folks created them before? Yeah, this tends to be the way it goes. Can you tell me in chat, what is the difference between cover letters and resumes? We're very confident in resumes, less confident in cover letters. What contributes to that lower confidence? Or what's challenging about cover letters? You can drop those responses in the chat and we'll make sure that we are handling them in the Q&A. Some initial ideas are starting to come in that a cover letter is more personal, whereas a resume is about credentials. You might have less experience writing cover letters, more about what you bring to the company and interests. It's harder to put your qualifications into a letter than a list. Great. So in terms of a cover letter, some of you have already handled a lot of the major elements of one, but you want to make sure that your cover letter is bridging the gap between who you are as a person and what you're bringing to the company and those experiences that you've cited on your resume. This is the format that we encourage you to use for a cover letter, and I want to draw your attention to a couple different things. So the most important part of the cover letter, or the part of the cover letter that will take up the most space, 4 to 5 sentences, is bullet point number 4, which is applicable skills, research, internship, and project experience. This is what you've covered in your resumes already. This is where some of the confidence is coming from in resumes. For the rest of the cover letter, a lot of that can be a lighter touch than some of us might realize. So first things first, in a cover letter, you want to express your interest in the company and the position. Since you are student interns often, you want to make sure that you're stating your major, academic year, and what university you're attending. And you want to take some time to emphasize the company's mission and its relevancy to your career goals. So when we talk about interest in the position in the company, a lot of times students give us their life story. This can be helpful, but it's hard to do that in one sentence. A lot of times your interest in the role can be much more concrete. You can emphasize the skills that you're bringing and frame your interest as, I know I will be good at this role. That's why I'm interested. Talk about where you found the company in this opener as well. But you want to open explicitly stating what your skill fit is, and then just emphasize that throughout the rest of the resume. After you talk about your experience in bullet point 4, which is a lot of information that you're going to be re-emphasizing from your resume, bullet point number 5, summarize why you're a good fit for the position, re-emphasize that opening skill set statement and why you're interested, and then take some time to thank whoever is reading your cover letter. Evan and I, this is a big part of our job. We read many, many cover letters and resumes a day. So do the folks that we send your applications on to. So make sure that you are personalizing that where possible. One tip before we move on real quickly, one tip, we are in the age of ChatGPT, and we also are in an age where there might be a lot of advice in career spaces to use those things with resumes and cover letters. When it comes to ChatGPT or cover letter templates, they're a great place to start, but you do not want to rely on these for your final product. I've moved a couple of resumes and cover letters to the no pile recently because it's clear that they were coming from a ChatGPT prompt. A lot of times those cover letters will reference things that aren't necessarily in your skill set, like that ChatGPT has invented, or sometimes students will forget to go back in and add relevant details. So I've seen cover letters that will say things like, as you can tell from my experience, and then it will just say in parentheses experience. So that's clearly a product of just being spit out by the machine. And as you're sort of learning these professional skills, I think it's really helpful to give a first shot at a resume or cover letter with the resources that we have available and with the resources that your schools have available, so you can better assess the value of those products going on. If we have any questions about this section, you can drop them in the Q&A and we will handle those in the Q&A. And then I think we can move on to the next slide. So these are some upcoming events. We have another general info session in January. In case you joined this one late, or in case you know that friends of yours would be interested in this program as well. There's also, I think, an additional info session between January and February, but I wanted to emphasize a career panel that we have coming up in February 20th from 6 to 7 p.m. Where you can see a presentation from previous interns, often from our spaces. If you're interested in following us on social media, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn and TikTok, where we share updates in our program and also a lot of these resources as well. We spoke a little bit throughout the presentation about resources that we have available for you. So if you go to the bit.ly link on the LifeSci NYC Internship, I think that takes you to our presentation, or excuse me, our website. But we also offer the office hours that I spoke about. Those office hours can cover anything from how to write a resume to how to write a cover letter. We also talk with students, if this is your first time sort of navigating a job board and assessing, which jobs are relevant to your skill sets, we can help you learn those skills. If you're having questions about how to apply or even just how to navigate our job board, we can meet with you in office hours for that. And then we also offer mock interviews in office hours if you are invited to interview with any of the hosts that we partner with. You can find us on Meetup, where we speak more about our events, and we have professional resources available for you all as you construct resumes and cover letters as well.
Thank you, Bill. I think we're going to move on to the Q&A. I see that the first question I saw, I think, was about the video, and why it would, sorry, my computer just reset. Okay. Someone asked, that if they didn't submit a video, would it significantly affect their application? We definitely wouldn't. If you don't feel comfortable making a video, please go ahead and submit your application. We don't want you to delay, because making a video is intimidating for you. While a video can only help and give a greater window into what you are bringing in terms of passion and perhaps skills, it is maybe not for everybody. So please do go ahead and submit your application, whether or not you are planning to make a video. And somebody else, I think, asked if we could repeat the reason why we recommend applying for the full summer application rather than the abbreviated one. Do you want to take that, Evan?
Yeah. So just to reiterate the difference between our abbreviated and full summer application, our abbreviated application, which is a little bit more simple and like easier to submit, only gives you access to academic year opportunities, which is fall through spring. Whereas our full summer application, which requires just a few more supplemental materials like that recommendation, personal statement, and transcript, that gives you access to every position that we have. So all academic year positions, as well as our summer positions, and we typically place more summer positions than any other role. So we highly recommend that you do submit a full summer application as soon as possible.
Our next question says they were wanted more clarification about the program interest question. And I believe, correct me here if I'm wrong, that you were talking about the personal statement. And do they need to specify what positions they're interested in, or can it be a general answer? Do you want to take a stab at that, Bill?
Yeah, thanks so much. So in terms of like positions you're interested in, you could talk generally there about like entry level positions that you might be interested in. A personal statement defining program interest could say something like, I'm looking to get my first research role, or I'm excited to work in lab environments. If you're a comp sci student, you might be talking about working on app development that you're interested in. Some of our business students might be looking for opportunities in social media marketing, right? So you can be general in that way, but still be specific about what those goals are. You don't necessarily need to say, I saw your position posted with Pfizer, and I want to work with that one. But have some kind of idea about what your entry positions what would make you happy. Does that answer your question? I think that was Joshin.
Evan, somebody is asking how they can find out if their recommendation letters are turned in by their professor.
Yeah, I don't think there is actually like a notification that your correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's actually a notification if your professor did submit their recommendation for you. Like I don't think that goes out to you as an applicant. However, you can ask us at any point, like after you submit your recommenders contact information if they submitted. So you can ask us maybe like a week after, and we can let you know if we did or did not receive that recommendation yet. There is no barrier to when your recommender submits their recommendation for you and when you can start applying. Once you have like submitted that contact information, you can immediately start applying to positions. You don't have to wait for them to submit. But yeah, again, you can reach out to us and we can let you know.
And I see that the next question is, if you're an international student, are you still eligible to volunteer or participate in a paid internship? And will I need a certain work document to apply for an internship? So we are open to international students. However, you must have the ability to work in the United States without sponsorship. So generally, what we see is people who have an F1 visa and can utilize either CPT or OPT. I think there are a couple of other isolated possibilities, but that is really what we see 99.9% of the time. A few of our hosts may not be open to international students, and we will always indicate that in the job description, but most of them are open to international students. However, we do not place students into volunteer positions. All of our positions are paid, and we do require that. Let's see, next question says that on my application, I don't see the personal statement section. I was filling out the full summer. Would the video be enough for a personal statement? Bill, do you want to talk about how they can find that personal statement or reach out to us for more assistance?
Yeah, thanks so much. So if you continue to have troubles with this, you can always reach out to our general inquiry email, which is internships@upperweststrategies.com. But the way that our full summer application works is that once you submit the first round of information, you'll get prompted with another email where you submit those additional documents that the full summer requires. So if you haven't seen the personal statement yet, it's probably because you haven't submitted yet. And once you submit, you'll get prompted with a follow-up email. To your second question about, is a video just good enough? The video is meant to be supplementary. So when you are completing your application, you'll need to do a personal statement no matter what. The video is just meant to round out your candidacy. And if you have questions about what a stronger personal statement can look like, or if you'd like to meet with us to write that, we absolutely provide those supports.
Michael asks, can the transcript be an unofficial transcript? And absolutely it can. And I see someone says, if I started on the science track, can I switch to business and vice versa? And as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to pick a track. You can apply for any positions for which you're qualified. That's just a way of us explaining that we have both types of positions. Evan, somebody is asking if they're an international student, can they give a professional reference from their own country?
Yeah, we don't have any real restrictions for who can be a professional reference for you. Again, we do recommend that it be, for instance, a professor, a supervisor, someone who knows you in like a professional or academic setting, or even like spiritual advisors, coaches, things like that. The one thing that I would say is we definitely would want to make sure that that recommendation is in English. So yeah, if you need like to translate it, definitely like let us know. But yeah, we would, since all of our hosts are operating in the US, we would assume that they would want those references in English.
Let's see, next question. Somebody says they're a first-year student and still waiting for their grades to be posted. Would that be a problem for the application process? Do you want to take that, Bill?
Yep. Yeah. So there's no issue there. You can just list your GPA as 0 as those come in, and then same advice as with our transcript advice. You don't have an official transcript. You don't have official grades. Just upload a screenshot of what those classes are when the application prompts you for a transcript. And then once those grades come in, just email us, and we'd be happy to update that information for you.
And I see Monica is asking, do we write a different cover letter for each company? And the question is absolutely yes. The cover letter, well, everything in your application is going to be representing you to every position that you apply for. The cover letter is your chance to make a case that you are a perfect fit for that particular company. Companies don't want people who are just like open to any internship. They want somebody who is genuinely interested in what they're offering and in what they're asking the person to do. So as Bill was explaining in their advice for the cover letters, you want to make that case in your cover letter and really use your cover letter to accomplish that goal for you. If you need help, please sign up for office hours and we can help you on your cover letters, because I know that that's intimidating for a lot of people, but it is an important piece of the application process. Let's see. Somebody asked, what tips do you have for interviews? Evan, do you want to give a couple quick tips, though I don't think that we can go too into depth on that right now.
Yeah, so I guess like three like big tips that we typically give during our office hours is research the company. Definitely like know what the company's mission is, know what they're currently working on. So if they ask you about like specifics like that, you can have some idea or like some like background of that. A second tip is you can like script out questions that you might have for an employer beforehand. I would say that's one of the few things that you can actually script. Like just have like a list of general questions that are like, or not general, but specific questions about, for instance, like the work environment, what your day-to-day is going to be like, what they might measure success as in your first like week or your first month. And then I think like the last big tip I would have is have like a really solid elevator pitch, like a 30-second to 1 minute pitch of like your experiences, your background, what you want to do, like, or what is your, like your future career goals, and like why are you looking for this specific position. Other than that, we do have like specific interview prep office hours that we highly recommend you apply to or sign up for if you do get an interview with one of our companies. We can go through many more tips, do like mock interview questions with you, and kind of give you a little bit of background on the company itself.
Bill, can you answer Juan's question about does it all have to be submitted at once? Resume, cover letter, recommendations?
Yeah, thanks. So, Juan, when you complete your application, the first step is to send in those required materials, which is a resume if you're doing the abbreviated application. And then if you're doing the full summer application, we need the transcript and references from you as well. The way that it works is you provide an email and that initial provide email contact info for your references in that initial application. And then that triggers an auto email to those reference providers. Once you complete that application, you get access to our job portal. It's then your role to decide which jobs you're interested in, and that's when you write cover letters for each position that you're interested in. You will need to provide information for your reference providers when you submit your application, but I think the final deadline for those references is just the final deadline for our applications in March 31st. So if you get all your materials together and apply and give us the emails for your reference providers tomorrow, you'll get access to our job board. But we will need those references in before the final program deadline on March 31st.
Though to be fair, they will still be able to submit after that. It's just highly advised
Yeah.
that you give them a little advance notice, because if we send your application on to a host company, some of them may really want to read those references and
Yeah.
be sure that there's one there before they actually consider you seriously. And some may not be open to those whose references have not submitted.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sharon. I've definitely have seen in our experience screening that somebody have said, a host has said this person looks great, but I don't see any reference info for them. I have no way to confirm how great they are, right? So make sure you've got your team ready to brag for you. It's really helpful to get those references in quick.
And I see we have a quick question from Gurpreet. Where do I submit the video? That is part of our full summer application, and you'll see a place where you can upload a link to, say, Vimeo or YouTube. And just make sure that you give access on your video to anybody who clicks on that link. So that should be pretty straightforward. We have another question. If we want to apply by the early bird deadline, do our references also need to be in by then? I think we just covered that. It should be in shortly thereafter. But again, we're not going to restrict you from applying for positions. Is this application for the year 2024 only? Would I have to redo it for, say, summer 2025? Evan, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so our application cycle restarts every September. So if you are looking for summer 2025 positions, you will need to reapply after September of 2024. And then that application will stay. Oh, I guess if you're looking for 2025, you'll need to, no, I think that will
That's
cover
right.
it. So yeah, next year you'll just have to make another application.
Michael is asking, do our references get notified as soon as we list them, or are they only going to be reached out to after we submit our application? And as soon as you press submit on their contact information, it is going to trigger an email from our system to that reference. So make sure that you have alerted them in advance and gotten their permission to use them as a reference. Can transcripts get updated after grades come in? Do you want to answer that, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. Please email us with any updates to transcripts. We'll fix that for you on the backside of our program. Same thing goes for resumes, right? Your resume should be updated often. It's not unreasonable to think that you'll have new experience to add to your resumes in the time that you're applying. If you ever have updates needed to your documents, you can send them to our general inquiry email and we'll update those for you.
And the last question I see here, and feel free to put any more if you have any, do you only receive access to the job portal once you're accepted to the program? And just to be clear, we don't accept or reject you from the program as a whole. We don't actually even look at your application until you've submitted cover letters in that job portal. So when you're in our application process, there are a number of stages to that application process, and you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your email that you've used in the application, because it will provide you with links to that next step, including a link to the job portal once you've submitted the application as a whole. Do we have any other questions? Because I think otherwise we're going to wrap things up.
I think there was one last question from Aston.
Okay, go ahead.
About like grades. If your grades are not great, what other supplemental materials do you need? So like if you're submitting a full summer application, you will need to submit your transcript. Honestly, we're like, if we see your transcript and see like that the grades aren't great, that's not going to be a barrier to your application. And like we mentioned earlier, we do technically have a 3.0 GPA requirement, but I guess the supplemental material here is that you would just need to kind of describe why those grades are not like up to that 3.0 GPA, or like why they don't meet that mark. And again, that's not going to be a barrier to your application.
We just got another question from our personal experience seeing applications. Do we find that students have found success for the fall timeframe? Bill, can you answer that?
Yeah, definitely. I think something to consider as you apply for fall or summer positions are two things. The first is on our side. In the summer, we have more opportunities available for you. That is when a lot of people are looking for interns, and those opportunities in the summer tends to be full-time. So if you're looking for a full-time internship experience, summer is what you're looking for. The other element to consider when you're applying for summer or fall is knowledge about yourself, right? In the summer, many of you are not necessarily balancing a full caseload of courses. You may be taking summer classes, right? But it's not full time always. So it's important, I think, to really sit down and assess. This is my class schedule in the fall. They're asking for 20 to 25 hours a week. And maybe it's an hour and a half on the subway to the place that I'm going to be working. Is that really doable, right? So be really honest about those questions about yourself. And then also recognize that there's more available in our program for summer. However, we're hiring interns right now. We've hired a couple this week. So fall opportunities absolutely exist. You just want to make sure that you're doing a really honest assessment of your own lifestyle and availability at this point.
I would totally agree. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We wish you a wonderful, relaxing break from school if you are still in school, and urge you to take this time to apply to as many of our positions posted as are good for you once you've submitted an application. If you have questions on the application, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We try to get back to you in a very timely manner, and really enjoy supporting your efforts. So thank you all and Happy New Year.
Bye, y'all.